Fantastic. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Global Expansion Team Zoom. We have the amazing John Bash joining us tonight. We're going to be talking about dreaming. So many times people are talking about molecules and health and whatever, but at the end of the day, when people dream and start to create a lifestyle that most people want to know more about, it's a great way of kind of going further into how this business works. So, John, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Not a problem. Interesting that you asked for this topic because I just did it for Chuck and Tammy in Montana last night. Exact same topic.
Well, you're kind of coming in and out. I wonder what you're kind of bubbling. I wonder why the sound is having trouble.
Bubbling. Let me take a look.
Oh, he says it sounds good. Bo says it sounds good. So maybe it's just my computer. So I'm so glad. You said you just did something for Chuck and Tammy recently?
The exact same topic that you're doing tonight. Yeah, so interesting. But it's an important aspect because, in fact, they had a business opportunity event and then a training after that. And what I shared with the people is, the average person, when they join a network marketing company, they always lean on the product because it's easier to talk about, because they haven't made any money maybe at that point in time. And so they don't feel comfortable talking about the money or about a dream. But that's the most important aspect. And that's what really brings people to the table, because everybody has something they want that they can't have doing what they're currently doing. And our job is, through questions and a discussion with the individual, is to find out what that is. Because once we find out what that is, they're giving us the gateway of how we can then introduce our opportunity to make a difference in their life. So that's a big factor. Absolutely.
Well, John, what do you dream about?
Well, right now I'm dreaming about a Coeur d'Alene Lake front home, cabin, whatever, something with a boat dock and whatnot. I just spent all last week on the lake. Chuck and Tammy were with us for 3 days, but Dina and I were there for a week. And one thing, I learned some of the things I don't want about the lake, and I learned some things that I do want. And I'm working with real estate people to try to find the right spot. So if my dream board is actually right here up on the wall, and there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 16 things on that board that I posted on the board, and there's only 2 I don't have. So, as I reach ones, I mark them off. And when this dream board is complete, I'll build a brand new one. And because literally you need something to keep you moving, something to get you up in the morning, something to excite you to start your day, to make your calls, to reach out to people, to chat with them. You've got to have that motivation to take that action step. And sometimes it's too easy to get up in the morning and get caught up in your emails and what I got to do today for groceries, and what I've got to run these errands, and thinking about things that do not produce income or any change in your life. They're just keeping things status quo. So yeah, it's extremely important. And I like, I've always said you need to keep your why in front of your eye, because if it's always there and you always see it, it's going to remind you, it keeps to stay focused on exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish.
So how do you start these kind of conversations with people? I mean, do you feel like you have to know them pretty well to start asking them about their dreams? Or could you ask a complete stranger, hey, what do you dream about?
Well, I don't necessarily start with the word dream at all. I just start having a conversation with somebody, and then I'll ask them what they do, and do you like what you're doing, and how long have you done it, and what do you like most about what you do? What do you like least about what you do? And I just start asking questions. And, if you're open, friendly, and interested in somebody, most of us try to go into the thing being interesting. We want to get their interest in us and what we have to offer. And that's just, you're really, I like to say you're stepping on a landmine, because you're blowing up your potential of making contact with this person, because we have to remember that everybody is already so busy in their life that they can't finish their to-do list today as it is. So you start talking right away about getting them to buy something or getting them involved in something, and you're going to get pushback, because I don't have time to be involved, and right now I'm not looking to buy anything, is the attitude. And they'll, people will tell you, and I don't have money. I don't have enough money for that. And then the following weekend they're on their way to Las Vegas or somewhere to do it. Everybody has money and everybody can do it. It's when people give you that objection, it's because they don't understand the value. You didn't put the value in front of them. And I think the value comes out through your questioning. And I'll ask people about, as I said, what they like most about the job, what they like least. What is something that you really want in life that job hasn't helped you get? I want to find out what it is. And then when they tell me, they'll pick something. Maybe it's a new zip code because they don't like where they live, or it might be a new car that they need, or maybe they need their wife home on a full-time basis because the kids are coming home from school and there's nobody there to take care of them. Everybody has something that they want that they can't have doing what they're doing. And when I can find that, then and asking questions, and I really go deep into those questions. So if they, for example, they said, what I hate most about my job is the commute. I said, really, how long is that commute? They say it's about 45 minutes each way. I said, so you're literally spending about an hour and a half every day in the car going to and from your job, right? Yeah. How does that make you feel? When I ask them how it makes them feel, they're going to relive those moments of what that's like. And they're going to think about the people that are ornery and cut them off and all those kinds of things. And then I'll say, so you get off work at what time? I'm off at 5. Okay, so it's going to take you 45 minutes to get home. So it's about 6 o'clock, 5:45, 6, depending upon traffic for that day. What time's dinner? Dinner is usually at 6:30 or 7. And you said you had 2 kids. And you said they're 8 and 9. What time do they go to bed? They're in bed at 8. So the fact that you're getting home at 6, you're eating dinner, and they're in bed, just an hour later. How does that make you feel? I'm going to ask questions because I want them to live that. It's like I like to use the example. I think I used it with Tammy's group. If you went into a doctor's office and your stomach was really bothering you, and the assistant took you into a back room and said, here, sit here. She didn't take your temperature. She didn't check your height. She didn't check your blood pressure. And then the doctor came in and just hands you a prescription and say, here, take this and your stomach problem should go away. You think he's a nut. That's because he didn't ask questions. He didn't find out how it started. Was it a traumatic thing that happened, or how long has this been bothering you? Those questions are asked so the doctor can get a good idea of what the person needs. So that's my job, is finding out what do they need. And the only way I'm going to find out what they need is by asking them questions and then expanding that. And when I say expand it, again, I'm going to ask them, and the fact that your kids are only maybe up with you for an hour at most, how's that make you feel? Oh man, it's really bugging me. They're growing up without me. And how does it make your wife feel that you get home at that time every day? And and then I'll say, what if there was a way for you to get home earlier? Would that be something that would be of interest to you? And ultimately, when I get down to the financial side, I would simply say something. I'd find out what it's going to cost to change the problem in a financial sense, and then I would say something like, if there was a way to earn that kind of money that wouldn't interfere with what you're doing now, would that be something you'd like to know more about? And the person might say, well, yeah, if I can do it without bothering the current job, because I've got to work that job, because in their mind there's never going to be of a mindset that I'm quitting that and running to something else. So it's not going to mess with that and the time you spend there. And when they feel that, then they're going to ask me, yeah, sure, I'm open. Because the reason they're open at that point is because I made them relive what the problems are that's keeping them from what they really want. And the average person will take those problems and they tuck them away in what I like to call the cedar chest of their mind. because they're too painful to think about. You know, they had a goal, they had an objective. You know, the average person gets out of college and at 25 years old, they're going to climb the mountain, they're going to write a book, they're going to break a record. They have something they want to do. And then they find out they can't do it because life hits them upside the head and they have to get a job and whatnot. So that dream gets tucked away. And my job is to pull that out and get them thinking about it. And if they start thinking about it, then they're open to see what might help them get it, because they've actually given up. They just accept every day, and they come home and they do the same thing every day. You know, he comes home from work, probably sits down and has dinner. Then the kids go to bed and he sits down, turns on the TV, watches that for the next 4 or 5 hours. And then his wife comes around and said, well, it's time to go to bed. And she's a little more practical, and they turn it off, and he gets up in the morning and does the same thing day in, day out. It's a Groundhog Day for the average person. And my job is to help wake them up from that kind of sleep. And that's the job of every person that's a network marketer, especially the people that are working with our products. Because, you know, when the average person goes out, they want to pitch. They want to go out and pitch the opportunity or pitch the business, you know, from maybe a product demonstration or a product meeting or something of that nature. And again, the people are, you know, everybody loves to buy, but they hate being sold. Right? I mean, they absolutely do. But more importantly, the average networker will go out and talk to all their friends and family. And the most important thing for them to remember is everybody that knows them, or knows you, or knows me, or knows anybody that knows us, knows 2 things about us. They know what we do for a living, or what we did if we're unemployed. And they know we know nothing about this stuff called redox signaling. The reason they know that is you've never talked about it before. It's never come up. And so they're going to be looking at you, and they're going to be nodding politely, and they're smiling, and they're going like this, but in their mind, it's going, where's this coming from? I never heard this before. How could they know anything about this? Why didn't they tell me this? Those thoughts are racing through their head, but they're nodding politely. And the person says, would you like to take a look? They go, yeah, sure. And then it sits on the table and they never take a look. It's simply because they know this person, and this person is pitching something that's totally foreign, doesn't make any sense, and they're acting like they know a lot about it, when how could they? Because you've never told me about it before. So those are things for people to keep in mind when they're talking to a prospect. And it's a whole lot easier to just be friendly, make a friend of somebody. You know, I came home, and I'll show you here. I've got 4 or 5 people that Dean and I met at a wine tasting party at the resort, a wine tasting dinner actually at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. You know, I just chatted with them, you know, and I didn't say anything about the business. I didn't talk to them anything about our product. They asked me what I did, and I gave them a very generic, short and sweet response, and then turned it right back to them and kept asking them questions. And before we got up to leave, when it was over, all of them said, that were sitting at the table, it was 2 couples and Dean and I. Both of them said, hey, we need to get your guys' contact information. So we just exchanged. So I mean, I opened that door. Now, is everybody going to agree to take a look? No, maybe not today, but they are a connection. They do have familiarity with me. They do know that I was really interested in them by asking them questions, and they're going to show some interest back because of that. And at some point, I'll have the perfect opportunity to put something in front of them to give them an option to say yes or no to. And I think that's all anybody should do. Their focus ought to be, if they're going to talk to 4 or 5 people a day, whatever their number happens to be, that it's just conversation. How you doing? How's the kids? How's everything going on? Are you guys making progress? And maybe you knew something about them, like, hey, you guys were talking about moving. Have you decided where you're going to go yet? All those kind of questions that have nothing to do with what we're doing, but it shows them that you take a sincere interest in them. And probably very few, they could probably count on one finger how many other people actually have a sincere interest in them that they feel comfortable talking to, because nobody else seems, It's like how many times do we all get into a circumstance where we'll say hi to somebody, they'll say hi to us, and then there's not another, nothing else comes out of them. They're just, people are people, and we have to remember, while ASEA is, to me, ASEA is our vehicle, but people are our product, because we have the only industry in the world that every company in our industry is a competitor. Most of the other businesses out there, if you sell tires, you might have 3 or 4 competitors, and that's it. But we have all of them, because everybody's trying to get the same product, which is people. So we have to stand out and be different, and show that we're professional, that we have a sincere interest in them, and we're looking to help make a difference in their life. And I think that's the most important thing, Cindy. So
if
those are
there's,
a couple thoughts.
so let's just say you're talking to somebody and you're asking them all these questions. And most people, like you said, don't ask a lot of questions. They're, waiting till the person stops talking so they can say whatever they've been waiting to say. Do you ever have anybody like, why are you asking me so many questions?
You might get that once in a while, but it's whether or not they feel it's a sincere interest or not. Because if they feel comfortable with you, I'll give you an example, and this is a little off color, but I'll give you an example. I was pumping gas at a gas station, and the guy was pumping gas on the other side of the pump itself. And I started asking him a few questions, and in 10 minutes, he told me about a bunch of his problems. He even told me about hemorrhoids he was trying to get rid of. And I'm thinking, well, I didn't even need to know that. But people will open up because they really want somebody to share some of their thoughts with, that they just don't have it. And I think most of the people that are probably watching right now have some things in their life that they're bothered by, but they don't have anybody they can talk to about it. And that's the same kind of thing. People will open up once they know you have a sincere interest, and you're not just trying to be a salesperson. Because if you're going to, if you're going to be a salesperson, you're going to get that immediate and not going to do it. All of us, we go into a mall, maybe if I'm going in for a pair of slacks, so as a woman, maybe you're looking for a blouse or a purse or cosmetics or something, you go in and you're looking at stuff, and an associate comes up and says, can I help you? And what do? You go, no, thanks, I'm just looking. You say, I'm just looking, even though you're there to buy. You do that because you have you don't want people getting into your way. But those people are talking to you about something they're trying to sell you, and the person doesn't want to be sold. So all we're doing is just asking friendly questions about them, their family, how many kids they have, are they growing up? What does your son play baseball? They'll tell you just about anything you want if you're sincere and you have an interest in them and their life. And then you can keep digging deeper the more that they talk, because the more they talk, the more open they are to share. And then once you get them open to share, again, they'll tell you some things you may not even want to know.
So let's just say, so you don't have an objective or an agenda at the beginning of the conversation to get their contact information at the end of the conversation, or bring up ASEA by the end of the conversation. You're just asking questions and getting to know them. What if you never see them again? Is that fine too?
Yeah, that's fine. The reality of it is 2 things happens. One is I did something nice for another person and made them feel important in their own life, and gave them, because through those questions, they're reminded about something they really want out of life that they can't have, whether that comes from me or not, they're still reminded. But more often than not, if you've had a sincere interest, the person will want to stay in touch. Because again, most people can count to less than 5 people that they know that they can actually share anything with. It's just the world has gotten so tight, and there's so much division been driven into our marketplace in the world. Whether it's race, whether it's political stance. There's just a lot of division. And when you step away from all that and just person to person, you get some great responses. And when you get great responses, all that is a potential contact. But you've now loosened that person up and opened them up, that the fact that you're a good person, they like knowing you, and they're open to talk more. When we did the Cancun trip, I met some great people. I'm communicating with some of the people there. So it's a pool. Same thing in the Dominican Republic. When we did the Diamond Summit, I met a good 6, I think it's 6 from the Dominican Republic. I got 4 that I really thought were good people from Cancun. And I'm still communicating with those folks. I just got off the phone with one of them this morning who just moved. He's in Alabama and just moved into a new home. And I had him talking about his new place and what was going on. And he was really excited to share it with me. So, it gives me a chance to build, in his mind, it builds my credibility as a person. I'm a good person who's just interested in them. I haven't tried to pitch anything. So when the time comes that I ask a question to have him take a look at something, it's going to be based on what I know about him and what I know he's trying to do. And he's told me a little bit about what he wants to do on the property that he can't afford to do at this point, this new place he bought. So that's somewhat of an opening, but I need to find out if that's the most important thing to him, because there may be something else that's a lot more important than that. And I'll get into that conversation with him. But, if you get on the phone and you have good, sincere conversations 4 or 5 times a day, in a half a year, you've got a bunch of people that are going to be wide open and ready, willing, and able to try your product, or maybe jump on board to earn the extra money they need to get that one thing they can't have now.
Do people ever feel like you've been stringing them along just so you could pop the question about your product or your opportunity?
Well, it's hard for me to answer that question. I guess it'd have to be them to answer it. But I don't think so, because most of them are pretty open and they're calling me back, so one of them we talked for a few minutes, and she said, I've got to run. I got to take my daughter Melissa to her, I think she said ballet. I've got it in my notes because I make notes on everything. And that way I can, because you talk to so many people, you don't want to mix it up. So I pull my notes out and I'll be reminded before I chat with her. But she said, let me give you a call back. So she's going to call me on Wednesday of this week. She set an appointment to give me a shout. So, it's again, we have to go into every conversation not looking to get something. We have to find a way to give something. And if we can give, there's a law that nobody's going to mess with. What you put out is going to come back. And it doesn't necessarily come back all the time from the same source. Sometimes, and I think most people have experienced this, we work really hard to get somebody into our business, and we think they're going to be a superstar, and they fizzle out like a bad firecracker. And then somebody just comes out of the blue and joins. That's just the world balancing things out. And if we keep putting the good out, the good's got to come back. And we have to be patient. I made Diamond in 2019, I think. And then it wasn't like, I was not with operating under an idea. I want to rank advance. I had other things I wanted to do in life. And I was, because I started network marketing when I was 19, and, I've had a pretty successful life as a result, and I don't need to work. So I like to take some time off. And then somebody said, don't you think it's about time to, and who was it? It might've been, Karen. She, just before she left, she said something to me, and I said, you know what, I think I need to do that. And so I started working on it, did some research in my group and figured out what needed to be done and laid out a plan to get after it. And then went double diamond, and then hit triple diamond within 4 days. And just because I put my mind to it and went after it. Again, that's part of the dreaming part. When you want to do something, it's really important you have to think, act, walk, talk, look, and feel like that person before you'll ever be that person. It's got to happen here first. And I guess I can remember when my first network marketing company, I didn't own a suit, I didn't know a pair of slacks. I had nothing but Levi's and whatnot because I was 19 years old. And I joined the business opportunity, and the first thing I did is went out and bought one suit and one dress shirt. But I remember getting French cuffs because I thought that was cool. And I had my first two goals, which was, it's kind of silly now, but it was called a Bulova Accutron watch and a Porsche 911S. Those were the two things I wanted. I had the watch in a month and I had the Porsche 2 months later. And that was just because they went up on the board, and that's what drove me every single day. And I like to say I was young, dumb, and stupid enough to not try to do it my way, because I didn't know how to do the business. I just listened to what my upline said and went and did it. And then when it didn't go right, I went back to them and said, here's what happened. It was going good, and then here's it went wrong. And they'd say, well, what was the conversation at that point? And I'd tell them. And then they'd tell me how to make a course correction. And I just kept improving that way. So
Right.
I think it's important for everybody to do it. You have to just do it. And it's not hard to go out and make friends. It's a lot harder to go out to recruit somebody, especially if you've not been successful, right? And because people they can learn to be, because everybody that's watching, learning, or will watch this recording is good at something. Could be anything. Maybe good at tennis. Maybe they're good at cards. Maybe they're good at knitting. Doesn't matter. Whatever they're good at, they weren't good the first time they did it. They had to do it, and do it, and do it. And the same thing will apply here. If they'll just go do the things they need to do to build up a good network base, and call those people they haven't talked to in a while and just have a conversation. Don't bring a SIA up on that first call, because when you make a call to somebody you haven't talked to in a long time, the first thought in their mind is, why is this person calling me now? Right? So it's all about human nature. And if people start thinking like, how would I respond if somebody did to me what I'm about to do to them, how would I respond? Then they're going to be pretty much on point.
Right. So let's just say you're asking people questions and they ask you, so John, what do you do? What do you say?
I just say I've been working with a biotech company for the last 7 years, and I'm just having a great time. And then I'll turn the conversation right back to them, because I'm going to take it again. I'm taking it off of me and getting back to my interest in them, because everybody likes to talk about themselves and what's going on in their life, but they don't have anybody really to do that. They always know somebody who's always bragging about their stuff or something like that, but they don't get too much of an opportunity to do, to converse with somebody and then really trust that person with being able to share some, inside stuff that they're holding inside their own heart. But if you're sincere with them, they will open up. And when they do open up, you're now a friend. I mean, you've made a friend. And when you have a friend, they're more apt to listen to you as you are asking questions to find out what their biggest need in life is, or the biggest want, and then narrow it down. When you ask, once you find out what it is, then you want to get it down to the point is, so this is the number one thing. If a genie appeared and waved a magic wand and gave you that, that is the most important thing that would just make your life? Well, no, there is, and they'll come up with another one. Then you've got to go through the same process of asking the questions to make sure what that is, why they want it, how it affects them, how does it affect their spouse, how does it affect the kids, what does it do for the overall family, all those kinds of things, so that they have to think about the answer, sort of live it, and then respond to it. Because again, when you can make them think about what they want, you're opening that little cedar chest and they're peeking back into that dream. And they don't open it because it's too painful to think about. So we get them to open it, look at it, And lo and behold, then they take the action step when the time is right. You'll get them to take the action step because they don't have another way to get it. And a person can put it forth as a part-time thing. Maybe in the new zip code they want is an extra $500 a month. It could be something as simple as that. And what I like to teach my people to do is when they tell you what that amount is, and you ask them, so if you had an extra $500 a month, how would that make you feel? Well, I mean, what would be going on in you? Would you have a sense of accomplishment? I mean, what would you feel? And I get them to respond to that. And if I find out that's exactly what they need, because that's the extra amount they need for the mortgage or rent, if it's a person that's renting, to get to that new zip code where maybe they feel safer, maybe they just like the thing better, whatever the reason is. When I have them thinking about that, then it's easy for me to say, if there was a way for you to earn that extra $500 a month and not interfere with your taking care of your kids or the job you're currently doing, I can't say it's going to work for you, but would that be something you'd like to take a look at? And if that person says, yeah, sure, I'll take a look, then I'm going to sit them down and I'm going to walk them through it. And if it's 500, all I have to do is go to the average income chart, know what that is. And then I'm going to draw a diagram of what that's going to look like. And so let's say they said 500 a month. And I can sit down and think through with this person, how many hours a week they're going to put in, how long will it take them to get to that? And let's say it's 90 days. Then I'm going to draw a chart of what it looks like. And then I'm going to draw what does it look like 60 days from now? What does it look like now? And now typically it's only going to be everybody, them, and anybody that gets involved sponsoring 2 people every 30 days. And I can get them just about anywhere. But I'm going to nobody has ever put a business plan in front of me in the network marketing industry and said, here's how we can get you there. So when I do that, I'm going to be unique to them because if they've been in network marketing, especially, nobody ever took that interest in them before. So I can say, usually most of the people, it's more than 500, it's usually 1,000. And I'll ask them, so how many hours a week, how many months of working those hours a week would you be willing to invest that time in order to get to that $1,000 a month in residual income? And they could say 6 months. And if they say 6 months, then again, I'm going to draw what it looks like at month 6. What's that organization look like that's producing 1,000 a month? What would it look like in month 5? Taking away 2 people from each sponsor. What would it look like in 4? What would it look like in 3, 2, and today? And today it's just 1 circle, them, and 2 circles they have to put names in for the month. And next month, and if it's at the beginning of the month, one of those people we're going to be looking to get at least 1 in before the month's out too. So that at the end of that month, they'd have 3. And then those 3 are going to become 6. And then and it just keeps going. Because if I show them the big one only, they're going to go, oh, that looks like a lot of work. But when it's broken back down to the simple, then they can go, I can do that. I know a couple of people that'll do that, that'll use that product. Because they could even be just preferred customers. Doesn't matter. Right. So I try to break it all down and remember that we're all human. We all think pretty much the same way. We may have different beliefs in religion and politics and a few other areas. We have different beliefs, but we all have the same way of acting and the same motivation to get better. And so if I think through how would I respond, it's very easy for me to understand how they're going to respond. And the reality of that is when they do respond in a way that is not what you expect, you can then rationalize in your own mind why they came to that conclusion, because you put yourself in their shoes and think, why would they go that direction? And you can think it through and you'll end up with it may not be exact, but it'll be a pretty close example of why they did what they did. Right. And that helps you with your next step.
Well, John, thanks so much. We're at the bottom of the half hour and I mean, we could go on, but this is the crux of the business, learning how to have conversations with people, really, really genuinely listen with their interest in mind and develop a relationship where you could ask them a sincere question about, taking a look at what you have and would it solve a problem that they've just identified. So yeah, really, really, really helpful information. So thanks so much for your time. Really, really do appreciate everything you've shared. And I'm sure we could go into a whole nother training on how to build that chart so that people could actually see what the work is that's involved to see. Maybe we'll do that at another time, but so they can see actually what they're building and the results of what happens when that's duplicated throughout that organization that they begin to build as a very small organization, but how quickly it can build if people do the same thing that they did in the very beginning.
Yeah, very, very true. Very true.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your, asking me to be on tonight. I appreciate that as well. You and Bo are a couple of my favorites. I know Dina absolutely loves you. So
Yeah, I love you too.
I can't say I love Buck, but I do really like Buck.
Well, okay, we love you guys too. It's really fun figuring out this whole ASEA adventure with you. So thanks so much for your time. I'll stop the recording, but I really appreciate it. I'm sure people will watch this recording over and over again. So thanks, John.
God bless you all. Take care.
Absolutely.